What's up, everybody? This is Gray here, and welcome to the Sunday Shift Report. The crap has hit the fan. There's a lot of things happening all over the place that we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about, towards the end of this, we're going to get into the whole SWIFT system. What does it mean by taking the Russians off the SWIFT system? How does it affect us? How does it affect the economy? How does it affect the Russian economy? We're going to touch on that. But we're also going to look at this massive propaganda war coming out of the West, the East, and everywhere else you could possibly think of on social media, mainstream media. What else do we got? We got Taiwan in the news. We got Germany in the news, North Korea, you name it. We got all kinds of stuff. Bank run on Russia. We talked about the bank run on Canada just recently. So a lot of things to go over. Now, that being said, first of all, I want to say everything in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. I do have all the articles linked down below so that you can read these articles in their entirety and you can draw your own conclusion. I'm not here to push fear or to say this is what is going to happen. These are just speculations on the article and what we see in the media, and also to give you a different look at certain things that you may not be aware of that the media will not show you, because that's the way they work. For the majority of folks out there that are asleep and kind of just put on the news and believe everything they hear, that's the problem. So here I am on the Sunday Shift Report, and we're going to dive into it, okay, folks? And also, thank you all for being here. I do want to mention I thank you all for being in the premiere. I truly appreciate all of you folks, taking the time out of your Sunday to come and watch me here on the tubes. And if you haven't done so yet, please hit that thumbs up button. It's always appreciated. Share this out. Do whatever you can to help get these messages and this information out to others. Other than that, let's look. Where do we want to start is the good question, right? And first, everything that you're seeing currently on YouTube is I took a quick moment. It is late. It's 4:30 in the afternoon when I started this, so hopefully we'll get it all done in time for 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But anyways, you got all kinds of things. People, you got these videos out there of the Russians moving, nuclear missiles, the ICBMs around. Come to find out, I guess Putin did make a statement. The White House has made a statement following up with that, as well as other countries. I guess, that's what we're going to have to jump into. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Russian and Chinese ties and what it means to the rest of the world, at least from my perspective, right? So I'm just kind of figuring out there, but we'll touch on the whole nuclear bomb thing first, because that's, I'm assuming, what most people fear in general. What could be the end result? Because technically, it feels like we're on the precipice of some sort of world war, or some sort of massive, many nations getting involved into a real dire situation, and it can affect everyone, not just us here in the U.S., but across the globe. So let's throw this up. We'll throw up the articles like we normally do here and move on from there. All right, so the first article we're going to jump into it says Putin's nuclear alert ordered condemned by the U.S. and NATO. Go figure, right? That's what they would do. Anyways, moving on, it says the United States and NATO on Sunday, which is today, condemned Russian President Vladimir Putin's order to put his nuclear forces on high alert as dangerous and unacceptable, while the White House said it is not ruled out imposing new sanctions on Russia energy sector. And I thought that was kind of intriguing, to the fact that Russia has put their nuclear arsenal on high alert, and we're still talking about sanctions. I guess that's for another video. Anyways, in issuing the order to prepare Russia's nuclear weapons for increased readiness for launch, Putin cited aggressive statements from NATO allies and widespread sanctions imposed by the Western nations that have already disrupted his country's economy. As you guys have probably seen, they're attacking the banking system in there, and we'll talk about that. The ruble has fallen and stuff like that, and I'm assuming that they expected this to happen. But we're going to look at some things that might, how do you want to say, regardless of what sanctions are put on this country, Russia specifically, what does it mean truly for them? Because these sanctions aren't attacking, I guess what they would say, the energy sector of Russia. Basically, their moneymaker, right? So anyways, let's move that to a side and see what else I have here for you in regards to all these topics. I just want to make sure I stay on point, because I do have some sort of thing. And I know that the intro was a little bit different as well. I know I'm going to sidetrack real quick, but the intro was a little bit different as well, because I wanted to save more time than running that long intro, because I'm working on a new intro for the Sunday Shift Report. I'm not saying that one's going to be it, but that one seemed, I guess you would say, it just made sense for this Sunday Shift Report. Anyways, where do we want to start? man, there's just so many different things here in regards to the whole situation. Um, so also, speaking of nukes, let's talk about Belarus, right? So Belarus has been a jumping point for the Russian military to move into Ukraine, roughly around the Kiev area. Now, if I'm saying anything wrong, the names, I'm not perfect with names, but it is the way that's the way I present it. But so let's bring up some things, and then we're also going to talk about and show how other countries are getting involved in this thing, and how, just like in World War II, one country did this, another country did that, and it slowly came together, and we were here at World War III, or World War II, my apologies. Anyways, let's bring up Belarus real quick. It says February 27th, Reuters, protesters took to the streets as Belarus held a referendum on Sunday to adopt a new constitution that would ditch its non-nuclear status at a time when the country has become a launchpad for Russian troops invading Ukraine. The vote, almost certain to pass under the tightly controlled rule of President Alexander Lukashenko, I don't know, that's how you probably pronounce it, close enough, right? Could see nuclear weapons on Belarusian soil for the first time since the country gave them up after the fall of the Soviet Union. So it's been a long time. Now I ask you, the viewers, where would you think that these folks, these Belarusians, would get these nuclear weapons from? Just want to put out there and say, that's my assumption as well, and I'm assuming everybody's on the same page, because that's what it looks like, right? Oh boy. Then also in the news in regards to, and I'm not saying that what North Korea is doing is nuclear, but they are pushing towards that direction. I think as of January 1st, North Korea started pushing their agenda with firing more missiles. And we've seen that, happen as this administration took over, that the North Koreans were starting to test again. Now let's throw it up real quick. It says North Korea resumes missile tests with first launch in a month, and I'm going to show you how this relates to other countries getting involved outside of just North Korea. Anyways, it says February 27th, North Korea fired what could be a ballistic missile on Sunday, military officials in South Korea and Japan said. And what would be the first test since nuclear-armed country conducted a record number of launches in January. So they had that nuclear capability. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff reported that North Korea had fired a suspected ballistic missile toward the sea off its east coast from a location near Sunan, where Pyongyang's international airport is located. The airport has been the site of missile tests, including a pair of short-range ballistic missiles fired on January 16th. The missiles fired on Sunday flew to a maximum altitude around 620 kilometers or 390 miles, which is not too bad, I guess, for their capabilities, and a range of about 300 kilometers or 190 miles, the Joint Chiefs of Staff stated. Analysts said that the flight data did not closely match earlier tests and suggested it could be a medium-range ballistic missile fired on a lofted trajectory. There have been frequent launches since the start of the year, and North Korea is continuing to rapidly develop its ballistic missile technology. Japan's Defense Minister Nobuo Kishi had said in a televised statement, North Korea was threatening, here's the keywords, North Korea was threatening the security of Japan, the region, and the international community, Kishi said. So by North Korea doing this, they're saying that they feel threatened by North Korea. North Korea aligns itself with Russia. Japan, of course, aligns itself with NATO and the U.S. allies. So there we have basically Japan and getting involved, not getting involved specifically, but you can see how it's slowly, how the dominoes are slowly starting to fall and how things are aligning. That being said, let's jump over to Germany real quick. I thought it was pretty intriguing about Germany and what's going over. But let's throw up Germany real fast. So it says, according to NATO statistics, Germany is expected to have spent 1.53% of its GDP on defense in 2021. Schulz has said that the government has decided to supply 100 billion euros for military investments from its 2022 budget. Germany's entire defense budget, by comparison, was 47 billion euros in 2021. So that is a massive jump. What is that? About 63 billion euros for 2022. So Germany is on high alert, and they want to build up their military might. I don't know where the money and how it gets all dispersed in Germany, if it's for, air defense, if it's for everything, but I'm assuming it's just their entire military, and they plan on hardening their military due to what's transpiring down in Russia, between Russia and Ukraine. Germany could purchase the U.S. F-35 fighter jets built by Lockheed Martin. So if you have Lockheed Martin stock, I'm pretty sure that's going to skyrocket, just like all the other defense contractors have skyrocketed. To replace its aging Tornado in the role of nuclear sharing, Schultz said. So now we have Germany doing its thing, right? And as you guys probably saw, I think it was it France, the French, or somebody out there took one of Russia's ships. It wasn't a military ship, but it was a cargo ship, and impounded that ship. Now, to me, I ask you, the viewer, this question: if a country, let's say China, for instance, let's just use China for an example. If China impounded one of our U.S. freighter ships and impounded it in China, how would you think the U.S. would react? Would we look at it as an act of war, or would we just wash our hands with it and say, meh, oh well, it's just a ship with our stuff on it and our people on it? Depending, I guess, who is in power, things would go either one way, right? Anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. All right, what else do we got? So people are always asking, and matter of fact, let's jump over to, since I'm talking about China and mentioned Japan and whatnot just a few minutes ago, I want to bring up something, because with this whole Russian-Ukraine thing, there is a spillover into Taiwan, as some experts are saying. So let's bring up this article real quick. It says, Ukraine conflict, 77% in Japan fear Taiwan spillover. 61% want Tokyo to keep in step with the West on Russian sanctions. The Nikkei poll shows, and like I said, these are linked down below. Anyways, it says a nuclear-powered Type 094A Jinjing-class ballistic missile submarine off the Chinese People's Liberation Army, the PLA. Navy takes part in April 2018 military, and that's there. But they are now, the Chinese are going to be doing some operations there. Here, I think, is it this weekend or this week or whatnot? So they're going to be doing some stuff down there. This is an older picture. I'd like to state that up front. But they plan on doing that, I think, either this weekend or the weekend's kind of over, so this week. Anyways, it says Russia's invasion of Ukraine poses concern for the possibility of China using force against Taiwan unless the international community acts, says more than 3/4 of respondents to a weekend poll by Nikkei and TV Tokyo. So Japan is extremely worried about what China is going to do, as they are watching what transpires over in the Ukraine. So, and I'm assuming most of you folks have already heard the whole conversation that the Chinese pilots had when they flew over Taiwan, and what they stated. Basically, they're saying that Taiwan is part of China and they are not the Ukraine. That's what was stated once translated, but, you know, maybe I'm wrong and maybe the translation was wrong. I don't know. I'm just regurgitating what I've read and researched when it comes to this topic. Anyway, so that's the whole China and Japan and that kind of stuff popping off over there. Let's jump over to, let's talk about OPEC, because I showed you guys on Thursday how much oil we get from Russia, which is, in 2020 was very little compared to now, what we get from Russia. And I haven't seen the banks specifically associated with energy have not been sanctioned. They've been sanctioned in other things in regards to what they're doing. And also we're going to dig into SWIFT and how that plays out, because that doesn't really cut off Russia entirely. Don't get me, it is a hard punch, but it doesn't stop the money flowing entirely. And like I said, the reason I left the SWIFT thing for the end of it is because some people may get a little bit bored, but to me it's quite intriguing, because I wasn't familiar with this stuff until now, and I started researching what it is and how it corresponds to the world economy and how everything plays out with it. So let's jump over real quick to Russia and China. Let's just, because Russia is one thing, right? And this is how I look at it, and this is from my perspective. Russia is one thing, right? The U.S. and Russia, when you put them head to head, there's a little bit of comparability to there. And then you add NATO, and then, of course, we're a little bit stronger. Now, where America excels at is sustainability. So if we were to, like, how, let's say we move into a country, or we invade, or whatever you want to call it, we go into a country. We can move our troops, our equipment, a lot of things extremely, extremely fast, like on a dime, you know what I mean? If you ask a lot of the service members who have worked with special operations and other organizations like that, we can move stuff around the world, hundreds, but thousands and thousands of miles around the world fast. And then we can sustain it, keeping our troops fed, keeping things fueled, keeping, medical supplies, and keeping everything running. So as a friend of mine said earlier, who is worried about being deployed, Here he said, we might get our asses kicked in the first week or so. He says, but then we're going to come back with the rest of us, and then we're going to kick their ass, basically, because we can sustain it versus a lot of other countries' militaries. Hopefully that makes sense to you folks out there, and if anybody's also currently in the military can kind of maybe back me up on that, or add to that as well. So here on the screen here, let's talk about this real quick. It says, however, one of the most critical factors is that the world's largest economy, the so-called Asian dragon, aka China, is one of Russia's major trading partners. Over the past few years, Moscow has strengthened its partnership with Beijing as tensions between the West and China have continued to escalate. It is a known fact that both Russia and China are partners on a multidimensional basis with a wide range of cooperation from businesses to military space. According to the Chinese government, the U.S. should set aside the mentality of Cold War and take seriously the security concerns that Russia holds. China would not hesitate to support Russia in the event of a military conflict. So then you have two superpowers. From my understanding, the world sees Russia as a superpower and China as a superpower. Maybe, because of the size of their military, the size of their economy, the size of their military might. That all comes into play into the numbers. But then you have two massive superpowers. And I'm not saying that, I don't want people to think what I'm saying, taking it wrong, that America's military cannot do something, because they can. We have one of the best military in the world, and everybody knows it. But there's a numbers game eventually, and how do things play out? Think about this. So, and if you guys watched Corn Pop, when he had that speech a couple days ago, and a reporter came up and asked him about China, and he basically said no comment and left it there. Because here's the thing, folks. If we wanted to push on China, let's say, I'm almost 100% positive China's going to back Russia no matter what it does, financially, militarily, whatever the case may be. China wants to be the superpower. China wants to be what America is. They want to be the peacekeepers. They want to be the world currency. They want to be top dog, right? Anyways, from that, the Chinese, most of the goods that are imported to the U.S. come from China. Our medications, the majority of our medications come from China. The majority of our goods come from China. Electronics, gear, clothes. Everybody, look around your house and look, your remotes, your TVs, your hats, your clothes, pencils, pens, anything you could possibly dream of, toys, come from China. All they would have to do is do what we're what the NATO and the U.S. are trying to do to Russia, is tighten that vice just a little bit and restrict what's coming into the U.S. Imagine how devastating that could be to our economy. Our economy is already in shambles in regards to inflation and gas prices and everything that's going on as of late. If you put all that together and we were to push on China, this current administration was to push on China, and China wanted to tighten that vice just a little bit, I think it would be a nightmarish scenario. Some people say, oh, they won't do that. They need all our money. If we've looked at what the Chinese have been doing for quite some time, the Chinese and the Russians are trying to create their own SWIFT system or digital currency system. And I think from my understanding, China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, and a bunch of those other companies are meeting here in the next week or so, because they all support what they're doing, because they find the West and NATO evil. So they're trying to create their own situation. It's not, let's just say, like a NATO formation, but they do have some sort of organization on their side of things. And, China and Russia have both, over the last several years, maybe longer, have been trying to dump American currency and invest in their own currency as well as precious metals. That's the key, precious metals, a commodity that can be exchanged almost anywhere. When it comes to a currency, if a currency becomes devalued and it's worth nothing in a country, and we've talked about Venezuela many times, how folks there are using gold and other precious metals to buy goods because their dollar or their Venezuelan dollar or whatever it is literally worth nothing. So something to keep an eye on, something to watch as you see these stock markets and all this stuff do all this crazy stuff. And then we're going to get into this whole propaganda BS, right? I just wanted to touch on how Russia and China are pretty much in support of each other. No matter what you see the U.S. push out in the media saying that this person may not get involved, this person may not get involved. There's a lot of things that are going to be happening behind the closed doors that us, the normal citizens of this country, will not know unless there are leaks out of the White House or some sort of security leaks or whatnot, which they have been in regards to the U.S. and China as of late, if you haven't seen that on the news. All right. Let's jump over to OPEC real quick before we go jump into Russia, because there's something I wanted to show you that happened in Russia. So let's jump into OPEC, right? I got two little articles. I didn't paste them together because I wanted to show you them separately. So let's pull up one of the articles from OPEC. OPEC is the other part of the major oil producers in this country, or not in this country, but in the world, right? This was dated also February 27th. So a lot of this news is current as of now. It says OPEC will probably stick to its plan of only gradually increasing oil production when it meets this week's, according to several delegates, after Russia's invasion of the Ukraine sent prices surging. Oils jumped last week to $100 a barrel. I think it went all up to $105 for the first time since 2014, was triggered mostly by geopolitics and did not reflect that imbalance between supply and demand, the delegates said. The group should continue adding 400,000 barrels a day of crude to the market each month, they said. So let me pull up the other part of this article up real quick, because I wanted to show you who is part of OPEC, right? Who's OPEC? And this kind of dives into that in this piece here. It says the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries is OPEC and its partners, a 23-nation alliance known as OPEC Plus, which includes Russia, meets on Wednesday to decide production targets for April. There's a lot of money to be made here, folks. With the price of crude oil being what it is, of course, you've been seeing it at the pump. Things have been jumping in most places. Are they going to think to themselves, well, Americans are going to want to pay this. The rest of the world will pay this, regardless if they like it or not, because they need fuel. They need oil. These are things that we need. Without it, people are SOL. Anyways, the group and its de facto leader, Saudi Energy Minister Abdullah, I can't even say his name, bin Salman, have a history of surprising the markets. It's still possible their stance changes over the next 3 days. We shall see. Anyways, I wanted to show you that Russia is part of OPEC because they're a major oil producer. It's that simple. It's that simple. It's funny. We should be we could be energy independent. Turn on the Keystone Pipeline. Let these countries, or let these. There's so many things that Corn Pop did to restrict our own energy production out of Alaska. Out of fracking and natural gas and land leases and stuff like that, to do that on federal lands. There's a lot of that could be resolved if we wanted to become energy independent, because we could literally derive our energy from our own people, from us, which would create jobs and money and actually better our economy, at least from my perspective. I guess I'm not a guru when it comes to that, but from my perspective and everything I read, that could be a way to better our economy specifically and become energy dependent on ourselves versus others across the world, and have to deal with a bunch of this other stuff. And it's quite disheartening, to say the least, that the politicians are all about lining their pockets versus us, the people, because anything that happens in this country, we have to pick up the dime, be it taxes or inflation or the price at the pump or food costs and everything that you've seen skyrocketed over the last year. The only good thing I can see coming out of this is there's a lot of people on the left that are starting to become either more in the middle and start more falling towards the right, an aspect of like, wow, I thought things were going to get better. We got rid of Orange Man Bad and all of his policies, and now look at where we're at. Because it's not just hurting the people. It's not just hurting left or right. It's hurting everyone in this country. Every single human being in this country, specifically the middle class and the poor, tremendously. All right, so, and here, I guess before I get into this whole propaganda thing, because this pisses me off in general, I want to show you something. We talked about the Canadian bank run, because think about this. If people all freak out because they fear that the banking system is going to have some sort of issue and everybody goes to the ATM and pulls their money out, that creates a huge system on any world economy or any country's economy in regards to everyone trying to take their money out the bank. I already discussed that, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but I'll throw up this article real quick. It says, I'm in shock. It says, Russians scramble to pull money from ATMs as bank runs begin. In this brief assessment on the impact of exclusion from SWIFT would have on Ukrainian banks, hedge fund billionaire Bill Ackman said that once the bank can't transfer or receive funds from other banks, its solvency can be at risk. If I were a Russian, I would take my money out now. Bank runs could begin in Russia on Monday, which I think is today because they're a day ahead of us or something like that, or maybe it's night there. Anyways, he said he may have been off by one day because in the hours following the Western announcements to suspend some Russian banks from SWIFT and to launch sanctions on the Russian central bank, we have seen scenes across Russia reminiscent of bank runs as locals lined up at cash machines around the country to withdraw foreign currency amid growing fears that the ruble could collapse when it resumes trading on Monday. When was this one? This one's done this morning as well here, 12:49 p.m. So just a few hours ago, this article was written. So that being said, I do have a clip of someone in Russia, and take a look at it. Take a look at some of these the things that are. I'll put it up for you. And long lines. There you go. There's and those are lines at the ATM in Russia. People want to get their money out, folks. And as you can see, that line is continuing and continuing and continuing. Crazy to say the least, right? Who's to say that we won't see this here at one point or another? Anyways, so wanted to show you that there is video evidence to prove what that article is stating. All right, now let's talk about media lies. Media lies. I want to show you something, and some people might not like what I have to show, and some people might not care. But I want to show you what I've dug up, proving, because remember I talked about Thursday how something seems off. Things seem really weird. And I showed you that one picture of supposedly captured Russian army folks or whoever they were, right? And it just seemed really off. So let's dive into this, okay? So here, it says question all of it. This is by Zero Hedge. And I agree, question everything. The current Western propaganda for Ukraine is an epic in scale. When we shared yesterday that all interested observers should be very wary of information from media sources in Ukraine, there was a reason for that. Question everything, take nothing at face value. If you have never experienced the propaganda push surrounding war, the totality of the inbound bullshit, I'll just say it, bullshit can be destabilizing, overwhelming, and unnerving. It's one of the reasons why CTH doesn't share immediate information, as everyone has an agenda. Now you can see this here, and I'm gonna bring up some close-up pictures of this article. Okay, so let's get rid of the article and let me bring up this picture. I'm gonna make it full screen so that you guys can see this. All right. These are pictures that have been pumped out from the media. And if you look at the dates on this, and you can find this out for yourself, you guys can Google this stuff. And it's funny because pictures contain metadata. Metadata has the date, the digital footprint of these pictures. And if you see back in March 9th of 2021, you see all these pictures of the Ukrainian president. Then all of a sudden, you see here in February 24th, 2022, Ukraine president fighting on the front lines. And you see all these same exact pictures of the president basically fighting on the front lines or whatever you want to say, right? So that's one, right? That's one of the pictures I wanted to show you, okay? Just one. Here's the second one, just to reiterate what I'm saying, right? Let me make it full screen as well. So here you see two different pictures. Look at the dates on the bottom. One's dated 3/23/2016, okay? Taken from Facebook back then. Then you have another picture here from this guy who tweeted, who has a blue check mark, so I guess he's important, dated February 25th, 2022. Same exact picture. Same exact picture. So I'm just showing you this stuff, folks, not to say what is happening is fake, but the media presentation of what is happening is bullcrap. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people dying, probably on both sides. There are bad things happening. But the media is trying to exacerbate the situation to make it seem a lot worse, or they just can't get the information that they want out to push the narrative that they're looking to push, which always begs me to believe is why. Why do this? You have reporters on the ground with cameras. Everybody has cell phones this day and age, from the citizens of Ukraine, from the, I'm assuming Russian military probably has their own camera crews and stuff like that. But That being said, we have all different types of different countries with camera crews inside these areas. Why aren't they showing those photos versus old stuff? Now, I'm going to bring this thing up, and I put a link down to it in the description as well, from a gentleman on Twitter, and he is a vet. I didn't want to use his name, but I wanted to show you what he said. All right. So as you can see here, it says, a lot of people ask me why I posted about ignoring the Ukrainian-Russian war. It says, I don't know war, but I do know media. Or, okay, he's not the vet. There's another person that's a vet. Okay, sometimes I misspeak, and I do apologize just because there's a lot of information that's running through my head at this point. Anyway, it says, I don't know war, but I know media, and everything about the war is being covered is sending up major red flags to him. 2 quick examples. Hero stories pop up immediately and then end up not being true. The 13 guards telling the Russian naval ship to F off, turns out they surrendered. The ghost of Kiev doesn't seem to be true. The sunflower seed story, etc. When you dig into these stories, you will find different types of information. Everything that we've seen on news, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBC, your local news, is that the Russians came up on these 13 folks on this island. The Ukrainians people there told them to F off, and that the Russians obliterated them and killed them all. But when you dig into the story, and you please, guys, even what it's coming out of my mouth, go further. Research this stuff yourself. If you research hard enough, you will find information that will blow your mind away. Anyways, it says that they surrendered. They weren't obliterated. They weren't killed. As of yesterday, I was making the assumption that this actually happened until I dug up more information. It's crazy if you take beyond what mainstream media wants you to believe and what the news is plastering on their screens, because they want to grab your attention. They want you to be sucked into their channel and to show you this is what's happening, this is going on, and this and that, and so on and so forth. And then you take it for faith, because the news is saying it must be real. But I've told you a long time ago, and we had on another Sunday Shift Report, I showed you literally the media can lie to you legally can lie to you, and there's nothing you can do about it but the misinformation that they spread. Anyways, most telling media runs them uncritically. So basically, the media is running them without asking any questions. 2, the biggest weird thing to me, no one stopped buying oil and gas from Russia. No one has. Everybody is still buying oil and gas from Russia. You'll see some articles like, oh, we're going to stop this. I think BP put something out, and some other things put something out. But if you look at there's I can't remember the app that I use to watch ships coming out of Russia, and you can tell their oil tankers that are coming out there, they're still moving. They haven't stopped. You have to go beyond the media. Anyways, even Germany said they will keep on buying, even though they're beefing up their military, right? Nothing against the German citizens. I'm just talking about the German. When I talk about a country, I'm talking about their political figures and their political leaders, not the people themselves. The people themselves are always on the shit end of the stick, per se, right? Anyways, it says the U.S. State Department went so far to say explicitly that the sanctions are designed to not stop the flow of gas. And it says what? Those exports are 30% of Russia's economy. 30%, a huge portion of Russian economy is the oil and gas that it produces. Also remember, Russia produces 29% of the world's wheat. All right, so now all you've been hearing on the news the last 48 hours is the SWIFT system. The SWIFT system. The UK started it off with we're going to sanction the SWIFT system. We're taking the Russians. We're not going to do this and we're not going to do that. And then America followed suit, and the rest of the allies and whatever, NATO and all those other folks, this whole SWIFT system. So I wanted to dive into it. I have, I think, five little quick little things here to explain the SWIFT system and how ironic it is, because if you dig into it, the things that they put sanctions on have nothing to do with the energy aspect of the system. It's more going after the oligarchs, people that have money, the rich folks, and stuff like that. And to me, it seems like it's really going to be hurting the people and not the politicians. But that's my own opinion. Anyways, let's start it out. What is SWIFT? Because I was curious with this. Even some of the news anchors had no clue what it is, and they had to get specialists to bring this on. So I wanted to know, just from a civilian point of view, what is SWIFT? It says, think of SWIFT as an acronym for Society of Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications, as the Gmail of global banking. It delivers secure messages among more than 11,000 financial institutions and companies in over 200 countries and territories. The message traffic, 42 million a day, and I'm going to show you it's been hacked before. On a day average last year, including orders and confirmations for payments, trades, and currency exchanges. The member-owned cooperative based just outside of Brussels was founded in 1973 to end the reliance on the telex system, which was the old system that they used. All right, so let's move to the second part of this here. It says, why is losing SWIFT access such a big deal? A country cut off from the SWIFT can suffer significant economic pain. That's what happened to Iran in 2012, when its banks lost access to the SWIFT as part of the European Union sanctions targeting the country's nuclear program and its sources of finance. Many of the banks were reconnected in 2016 after the EU took them off its sanctions list. When Western nations threatened Russia's access to SWIFT in 2014, Alexei Kudrin, a one-time financial minister of close to President Vladimir Putin, estimated that it could reduce Russia's gross domestic product, GDP, by 5% in a year. Cutting Russia off from SWIFT could have ramifications for other nations as well. aka the people that depend on the flow of energy from Russia, oil, gas, and so on and so forth. Russia is a key energy supplier to Europe, and countries rely on the SWIFT system to pay for the fuel, because how are they going to pay the Russians for the fuel that they need to power their country, especially if they're freezing to death and they need that fuel for heat and other things, right? Like I said, a lot of this stuff has blown me away. All right. Keep on track. Is there a Russian alternative to SWIFT? That was my question. Not really, or at least not yet. Since 2014, the Bank of Russia has run its own financial messaging system for Russian and foreign banks, but that has only about 400 users. Now, the People's Bank of China in 2021 announced a joint venture with SWIFT that was seen in some quarters as an insurance policy against being cut off from the global financial system. One fear among Western officials is that banning countries from SWIFT would encourage the use of such alternatives. Digital currencies and the underlying technology have also been touted as a threat to SWIFT for several years, but they are nowhere close to replacing it. So they're in the process of trying to find a way around this whole SWIFT system. Countries like China, Russia, and so on and so forth. Like I said, they're building their own thing all the way around, Moving on, it says, how secure is the SWIFT system? So is the SWIFT system, has it been hacked? Can it be hacked? Can the Russian cyber hackers hit it? Can other hackers hit it? Well, let's see how secure the SWIFT system is. There have been multiple attempts to rob financial institutions through fraudulent messaging on SWIFT, some of them successful. The best known is when Bangladesh Central Bank lost $81 million to hackers who breached it in 2016, not too long ago, folks, and tricked the Federal Reserve Bank of New York into sending funds. SWIFT emphasized that its own network wasn't breached, but it beefed up security in the wider industry and mandatory advisory controls at member firms. So it has been hacked. $81 million to a company, let's say like Bangladesh, or a country like, or not country, but a place like Bangladesh, $81 million is a lot of money. A lot of money. Anyways, moving on. Who are the people that regulate SWIFT, right? Who are these people that run this thing, right? And it says, since it doesn't hold deposits, SWIFT isn't regulated by the way a bank is. It's overseen by the National Bank of Belgium and representatives from the U.S. Federal Reserve System, the Bank of England, the European Central Bank, and the Bank of Japan, and other major central banks. Generally speaking, SWIFT would cut off access only if European Union passed sanctions against a particular entity or country. SWIFT suspended certain Iranian lenders in 2018 after the U.S. imposed a new round of sanctions, although it says that was an isolated event that was taken in the interest of stability and integrity of the wider global financial system. Basically, how I feel the system is set up is do what you're told, and we'll give you access to the system. Don't do what you're told, and we'll remove you from the system and create economic depression, or whatever, however you want to call it, economic hell in your country, right? So Again, someone holds all the power, all the marbles, and they're trying to control the world. The globalist. And maybe I'll get in trouble for saying the word globalist. Anyways, to wrap this whole SWIFT thing is how would a ban on SWIFT affect Russia and other countries? What is it going to do to other countries outside of just Russia? So exporters will find selling goods to Russia riskier and more expensive. Russia is a big buyer of manufactured goods. The Netherlands and Germany are its third biggest trading partners, who are part of NATO. Based on the World Bank data, although Russia is not the top 10 export market for either country. Foreign buyers of Russian goods would also find it more difficult to potentially prompting them to seek alternative suppliers. So they can't go to Russia for this, so they're going to try to find alternate suppliers who these suppliers entail might say, okay, well, it's going to cost us more to get this to you, so the cost of goods is going to be raised. The country is going to pay more for it and then pass that on to its citizens. Anyways, but when it comes to Russia, Russian oil and gas, now here's the key point, but when it comes to Russian oil and gas, foreign buyers could find it harder to find replacement suppliers. Russia is the main EU supplier of crude oil, natural gas, and solid fossil fuels, and this is according to the European Commission. So, if you notice the sanctions that they put, that you hear in the news that, oh, we sanction the SWIFT system on Russia. They can't do this. We sanction certain banks on the system, but they did not sanction the energy, the banks that control the energy, the energy trades and whatnot for the financial system of Russia. So they're still conducting business to get energy from Russia. They want you to think that they're putting these heavy sanctions and, oh, it's going to obliterate. Now, it's going to hurt the Russian economy, guaranteed, but not specifically the energy sector, which is about 30% of Russia's economy. And, of course, that's going to bring up the price of crude oil higher, depending on what OPEC, who Russia is associated with, is going to do here on Wednesday when they have their meeting. So I guess we'll be waiting on Wednesday in this meeting and whatever comes out to see what transpires with the fuel crisis that could envelop globally to everyone, not just the U.S., but globally. A lot of things going on, folks, and I just want you guys to be informed and aware of what's transpiring and to do whatever you can to be prepped up and ready. That's the key here to all this information that I'm providing is for you, the people that watch my content, is to be aware of what's going on and also misinformation that you'll see on mainstream media, and hopefully that you can get a better understanding of certain things that the media itself does not talk about via this channel on the Sunday Shift Report. That being said, out there, please, everybody, don't stop what you're doing. Stack it to the rafters. Do whatever you can to make sure that you and your family are secure for anything that comes our way, at least to the best of your capability. I know everybody's not rich out there. I'm not rich. I'm assuming most of you folks aren't rich, but do whatever you can for the security of you and your family, because you don't want to be one of those people in those lines in Russia trying to go to the bank, or in Canada trying to rush to get your money out. You don't want to be in those long lines at a pharmacy or at a grocery store as panic buying ensues and people become very irate and bad things happen. Be prepared, and you will have if you're more self-reliant on yourself when it comes to things like that, things are going to be a lot easier for you and your family. You want that security, folks. Other than that, folks, that wraps up the Sunday Shift Report. I truly appreciate all you guys sitting here watching me through this whole thing. Hopefully you got some value out of this. If you did, can you please give it a thumbs up? You guys have any comments and things you want to do, please drop them down below. I like to hear from you folks on all this information, things that you've seen, things that you think. I like to hear. I value you guys' opinion on what you think is happening, what you're seeing, how is it affecting you, those type of questions. So please don't be afraid to drop something in the comments. Even if you don't agree with me, drop something in the comments. I always try to be as friendly as possible unless you are rude and just don't add any value to the conversation. Other than that, I value anybody that drops something down there, and I try to heart it and at least have a discussion with you as best as I can. Plus, you guys can always email me with any questions that you guys have. Other than that, this wraps up Sunday Shift Report. Please stay safe out there. And mods, thank you for doing what you do. I truly appreciate it. I know I wasn't family as friendly as I should be today, but things are boiling over, folks. And I'm trying to keep as calm as I can in my demeanor and whatnot, because I know you guys like that about my channel and who I am. Other than that, please stay safe out there. God bless. This is GreyMan, and I'm out. I'll see you folks on the rebound.